Everyone conveniently forgets whenever the scans kind of mess things up, but they're very quick to jump on the official when a mistake is made, like mother frame or something like that. Yeah.
The mother frame is that's a good one.
Which was a stupid one. Hello. Welcome back to the Blue Banana Thing It Is We Do. Today we watched a very important thing. But first, Manu, Sophie, tell me how you are.
Well, I am blinded right now looking at Manu's hair. He's really decided to
We do need to address this, don't we? We can't just leave that
Do
alone.
we? Can we just all... See, that's what I'm going to do on my channel. I'm just going to show up like this, no explanation whatsoever. I do enjoy seeing people's confusion in the comments where it's going to be like, oh, wait, had he always white hair? Like, when did he change this? Did he? I kind of like being unpredictable in that.
It'll be like when I grew a beard for the first time.
Yes!
You get flooded with these comments. Half the people are gonna love it. They're gonna be thirsting. Half the people are gonna hate it. Like, absolutely hate it.
And there will be someone speculating, Manu's going through a really rough time in his life. I think he might be going through a quarter-life crisis.
Did you break up with your girlfriend, Manu? Did something go wrong?
Let's be real. Manu clearly has stuff going on right now.
Yeah, you're gonna have internet detectives after you.
Yeah, I mean, to clear up some mystery and to take away some of the mystique of this choice, I barely, basically the thought process was, I want to change something about my hair. I'm a YouTuber, I'm in Japan. If I'm not gonna get my hair bleached now, I'm never gonna do it in my life.
You say just Japan. We were talking about this before. It's also just a very, YouTuber thing in general. I feel like after you hit 1 million subscribers, the next step is to bleach your hair and, take that next step to give you that schmick LA look.
If you didn't bleach your hair platinum, did you really reach 1 million subscribers?
You're following a very well-trodden path with this hairstyle, is what I was saying.
Now that you're mentioning it, I feel like I was always kind of like, ick, when I saw your YouTubers bleaching their hair or something, and then now, without me even noticing, that
it's
inner urge.
subconsciously rubbed off on you.
That inner urge, yeah, I didn't even think about it that way.
You've become what you always hated.
But yeah, honestly, I'm happy it turned out this way because, as a little anecdote before we dive into monsters, my trusted local barber here in Japan, I don't go to anything fancy. I have a local guy who's 1 minute around the corner. He does a great job, by the way. I'm always blown away. He's $20 or $25. I'm like, you're doing fantastic work. And I was like, can you bleach my hair? And then he was like, let me think about it. And then the next time I saw him while I was walking to the supermarket, he was like, you know what? We can do it. And I was like, that's the confidence I want to hear. Let's do it. And so he got out the bleach, and then he was like, I think I still, so for people who have never bleached their hair, for me, that was a fairly new experience too. You don't actually get this color by bleaching. It doesn't actually get white, because if you bleach that much, your hair will basically fall out.
Yeah,
just the
become broomsticks.
It gets very yellowy. So bleached hair gets very yellowy. So basically,
and eventually very orangey as well. It's not appealing.
Depending on your hairstyle, I guess, also, and your hair type. But basically, in order to get somewhere white, grayish, you actually need to put blue in order to, if you're familiar with color theory, Photoshop, you go warm, cold, to counterbalance yellow, you go blue.
Oh, yeah, paint.
Yeah. And so basically, his idea was, he told me, I think we should go a little bit overboard with the blue, because, it's going to wash out a little bit, and then you're going to end up right where you want.
We want to really get you into that Sephiroth silver. That's the kind of zone we're looking at.
I was like, how comfortable, how confident are you that this is going to work? And he was like, it's a 50-50.
I like those odds.
I like those odds. So we went there, and for the first, honestly, when I left the barber, it was quite behind Liam on the white wall blue. That was the color it was. And I was slightly concerned. I was like, okay, in the worst case, I'm going to really have to embrace the blue hair. But luckily, it's been 3 days now, and it has gone out quite nicely. Honestly, I heard opposing things. Have you dyed your hair before, Sophie?
I have. So when I was younger, I've had it done professionally. But then a couple of times I've also just tried box dyeing at home or bleaching it yeah, by myself. Before I shaved my hair off, I thought, you know what? Seeing as I'm going to have no hair anyways, I should go wild. And I did do streaks when I was in high school.
Yeah, you've done some wild stuff.
I've shaved like one side of my hair. I'm actually going through a very tame period of my life, like hair-wise. So the reason why I shaved my hair in high school was part of a charity for leukemia. So the money was, I raised some money and I donated that money to a charity foundation. And I think not last year, but the year before last year, my grandma ended up dying of leukemia. And she had never had leukemia before then. It wasn't something that I'd even considered when I was in high school.
This is what happens when you raise money for leukemia,
Yeah,
as you
they're just-
said.
yeah, they're
You're
just-
helping the disease.
Exactly.
You raised money for the wrong charity. You needed to do the fight leukemia.
Sophie was supporting leukemia,
Yeah.
literally. Yeah.
I got the wrong memo. And now I feel like ever since that, I've been wondering, maybe I really need to re-donate to this charity and actually reshave my hair again. But I haven't gone around to it yet.
You would look like the sickest lawyer if you redid it.
Dude, that'd be so sick. That would be so cool. You would win all the cases.
No one's going to argue against that.
It might seem like I am a cancer patient.
Because you're going to take them outside in the courtroom.
Or very hardcore. It could go both ways, I suppose.
Man, what I actually wanted to ask you, like, do you think I should, this is like, after the leukemia and everything, this feels like the wrong thing to ask, but what I wanted to ask is if you think I should use color shampoo or not.
I was actually just about to ask, do you have a special blue toner shampoo? I would highly recommend you get it.
Yeah? Alright, got you.
Otherwise, it will become very brassy. I think it will last like that for a while, but then quite
At some
quickly, it could turn, and then it will turn quite brassy.
Brassy as in
Like yellow and
coppery?
copper and like orangey.
Brass, then copper.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
Eventually bronze if you don't, keep up with it.
I'll do the fake tan with that then, if I get to that shade.
You'll
I'll
go full Trump.
Full Trump,
That's
yes.
what I'm hearing. Yeah. Like if you had an orange face right now, you would look so Trump.
But you'd have to put your hair like a little bit towards the side, I think.
Oh yeah, I have to do like a little
Yeah.
like dog
Yeah.
on top.
Yeah.
Like a little like poodle that lies there. Yeah.
But the potential is there, if we want to call it that.
Perfect time for elections. Maybe you should do a bit of like an elections dress-up party.
So we goaded everyone into watching this episode thinking we're gonna talk about One Piece, but no, this is actually the political Biden versus Trump episode.
Yeah, here's our opinions on American politics from 3 people who don't live anywhere near there.
Spoiler alert, they're not great, probably. But then probably not as bad as most Americans. So.
Trump is not as bad as most Americans.
No, I'm saying
our
our
opinions.
Our
opinions are
opinions,
probably
right,
not,
right,
our
right.
opinions of American politics probably not as bad as most Americans. That was my point.
Sophie's just having a moment there of like, is Manu a Trump supporter?
I feel like if the statement was Trump isn't as bad as most Americans, that's a very confusing statement in a lot of ways.
Well, let's swiftly move away from this. Monsters, in case anyone is unaware, is a, what do you even call it? It's not a series, it's just an
one-shot.
OVA, an original animation. Well, it would be a one-shot if it was in manga, but what do you
Oh,
call
right,
it within
yeah.
anime?
I just
Yeah.
saw Sophie's photo.
Oh yeah, it's a great
Sorry
picture.
to interrupt. This is insane.
Yeah, so that was
How are you like a completely different person? What the fuck?
How were you not cast in the live-action Avatar?
I know, maybe I should redo it and then I should start a campaign, please.
Wait, did you have braces
Sophie
since you
for
did that?
N. I did, yes. It was a very rough period in my life because I was just hoping for the biggest glow up afterwards because I had no hair and braces. And when you have no hair, I actually quite liked my look. But when the hair started growing back, I looked like a 10-year-old boy.
I was about to say that actually.
Like
In that
fuzzy
photo.
as well.
And you probably would for like at least half a year.
In that photo, you look either like a 35-year-old Chinese woman or like a 10-year-old Korean boy.
Yeah. When I was growing back, my hair was all fuzzy and it was standing up like this instead of, I don't know, sometimes people can get like nice pixie cuts and I was hoping that's what my hair would turn out to be. But no, I went the 10-year-old Korean
You're rocking
boy.
it though. That looks
It's a
cool,
choice.
though. Yeah, I love
It's
it.
a choice.
And you did get the glow up, so I mean that worked out nicely then. In the end.
Dankeschön.
I mean, I feel like the glow up is pretty guaranteed when you just reduce yourself all the way back to base. And then just...
Anyways, monsters.
Monsters. Yeah, so this was a one-shot that precedes One Piece. It introduces the character of Ryuma, and it was published in 1994, I believe. That was recently animated 30 years later.
I talked with a friend today about that, and he was like, how cool that Oda just came up with this little one-shot prequel this year. And I was like, that was not this year. And he was like, no, I'm pretty sure this year. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure not this year. I mean, it can be confusing, I guess, because I think it's something that's not super commonly known that it existed.
No, most of his one-shots aren't. Even Romance Dawn, the one that is like literally the One Piece prototype. Eiichiro Oda did a whole ton of one-shots that were published in not Weekly Shonen Jump, but like various special Jump like summer and winter editions, I believe.
And I will say Romance Dawn and Monsters, like for a long time, I kind of thought it was just the same one-shot before I actually read either of them. Like in my mind, they were just the same thing.
Yeah, that's because all of his one-shots are published in an anthology called Wanted, which I believe is getting an English release
I was
finally.
just about to say, because I've always wanted my hands on a copy of that
never
anthology.
Existed. You
And
just
yeah,
had to read terrible scans, yeah.
but the more bizarre thing is I've actually been able to track down online, so I don't know how legit it is, a German translation of the anthology.
Yeah. Well, there should probably be a French one out there as well, because those are big markets for One Piece.
And a Spanish one, from my understanding.
Yeah. Like, the English market doesn't do much for One Piece. Like, we're last in the priority list.
Surely by now?
By sheer numbers, we're probably quite high, but we're
Yeah.
all thieving scum
That's what
who
I
read the scans.
Which is a topic on its
Whereas,
own.
you know, France and Germany, they can show Shueisha that, you know, we got some money here, we've got some investment, maybe publish some more stuff here. And that's why they get stuff like Film Red early as well.
I always just thought that maybe it's proximity.
Is France closer to Japan than
America.
the US?
I mean, Japan would be closer to Australia,
I think it's all pretty far away now.
Japan's definitely closer to Australia.
but Australia is just forgotten nonstop.
I don't think it's proximity. Remember Pearl Harbor? Like, Japan got there.
Yeah, I guess if you count Hawaii, then probably the US is closer. If it's like the West Coast, it might actually I mean, I might be like talking out of my ass right now, but
I think it's
But the Pacific
they're
is
both
quite huge,
equitable
right?
enough that it's probably not. The Pacific is massive.
yeah, like because I think if you've ever like had like a Google Earth or like a real globe, and you can actually kind of turn the Earth on its side in a way that it barely. Yeah, that's a different one. What is
no,
with the
that's
shameless
Australia
plug?
right
pretty
there.
big. Like, this
That's
is-
Australia right there.
Here's Australia.
Yeah.
No, actually, this one looks more like Australia. It's even got like a little Tasmania there as well.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Anyways,
Monsters. Okay. I think it's quite telling that none of us have really like properly dove into the content of Monsters. Because if I'm completely honest with you, I sat down, I watched it, it was alright, and I don't really have any strong feelings about it.
Yeah.
I think the fact that on like a platform like Twitter or Reddit, where people are like hyper obsessed over like truly mundane little things and turn those into gigantic discussions, the fact that a whole like, what is it, like 30 minutes? 35, 40 minutes?
25 or something.
I think it was
Like,
under
it was
30.
not 30.
It was the same length of a normal One Piece episode.
Yeah.
Like a 25-minute prequel to One Piece that got freshly animated in 2024 that barely got any like conversation at all.
That isn't marketed with any relation to One Piece. Like, if you just looked at the title of Monsters, you would never know they were connected.
It was so weird. They only had like the little like thing there at the end where it was basically Ryuma against Zoro, right?
Yeah,
like
where they replayed that scene from Thriller Bark.
Thriller
where Zoro
Bark.
gets Shusui.
I feel like they should have opened with that maybe as well to like kind of have people remember, oh, I remembered this scene, and then it's like, oh, you have like a little special scene with Ryuma, and then go back in time. Like that would have been.
Yeah. It's hard to say because I feel like I guess you're banking on them already knowing that, and then that's like a little surprise at the end. Or if they don't know that, then it's like a whoa, mind blowing. But if they didn't, then why are they watching it?
As One Piece YouTubers, like I think we can all agree the obvious thing would have been to have a thumbnail with Zoro in there.
I'm shocked that they didn't put Zoro in the marketing
At all.
like at all for this.
Yeah, that's really stupid.
I mean, it's clickbaity.
I think there was a lot more hype surrounding, what was it, the teaser trailer that came out sometime last year than when the actual episode or when the actual animation came out. I remember when the trailer came out, Twitter was in a bit of a hype station.
I think it might just be our bubble, though.
Because it was sold as if it was going to be quite a big deal. And then when it actually came out, it really just sort of like slid under the rug.
Yeah, we're like, it's out.
Because I think the hype was sort of around the same time that the live action was getting a lot of hype. So it was just sort of like, the live action is coming, like Egghead Island, and now we also have monsters. And it was just like such a big period.
I think they dropped some stuff during Jump Festa as well, alongside the announcement of like, Oda's spoilers for the next year. So that takes priority over Monsters talk, but it's been there for a long time in the discussion.
And to be fair, I do want to say that I quite enjoyed Monsters. I thought it was an enjoyable enough watch. It's just that was all it was.
It was not like insane.
I think it's mid in the true sense of the word, like not the derogatory. It was just like proper mid.
And to be fair, like again, from the marketing perspective, also looking at it, like what it looks like, the font they used and everything, it just like you would never connect it to One Piece if you had like if you didn't know it existed and that it had this connection before.
I don't like the name as a whole either, because it has a much longer title. It's Monsters 103 Mercy's Dragon Damnation.
Yeah, that's such a it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue.
Does it have any bearing to the actual one shot? Like, was that something that connects to the one shot? Is that why it used?
Oh, you've not read Monsters? Oh,
I've never read Monsters. Yeah, I mean the title.
Not that I recall in it, no.
Well then, yes, doubly confusing.
Well, I mean, it's a reference to Zoro's techniques, for sure.
Even the animation of it wasn't done, like, spectacularly.
Yeah,
you would imagine that, like it's not the movie quality animation that you would expect to put into
it's episode
something.
Quality,
yeah.
with a couple of little flares here and there.
Yeah.
Like when Ryuma killed Cyrano. They did that really interestingly, where they cut that to that, like, paper manga effect for a bit. But I was really disappointed by slaying the dragon in particular. Because I feel like we got to the moment and then it was just cut to black, you don't see the slice, and then we're back, dragon's head's off. Like, it's really lacking that satisfaction.
Yeah. I would have kind of expected, like, when it got first announced, I was like, oh, maybe this is even going to be like a small mini series. We're going to get like 3 or 4 episodes, or at least like something like 40-50 minutes of like almost like a short movie kind of, thing happening.
Yeah, but Monsters it's not really long enough.
No, the one shot isn't, but I would have thought that they could flesh out something. Maybe even put in things like stuff that we know about the Shimotsuki family now that, the Wano arc's passed.
Well, that's assuming that it is Wano.
Because even if Oda's like involved in like film red and writing like the entire screenplay and that for like movies like that, I was like, okay, maybe he can like give a few little details for here and there.
Well, Oda did write Monsters.
No, but I mean for the show, he could have like definitely fed a little bit more information here and there and like,
Maybe.
oh, this character does this and there's this.
I kind of think we shouldn't have really expected much, because this was a thing that Eiichiro Oda did when he was like 17, 18, maybe 19 years old. Like, this was never going to be able to compete with anything that One Piece has to offer. This was one of the many trial runs towards getting to where we are.
But like, that's to suggest that the story itself is lacking. I don't think there's a problem with the story itself. I think
Comparatively?
I mean, what can we expect from a one-shot versus a series that is now over 1,000 chapters long?
Exactly. But I feel like we are subconsciously like carrying that weight of One Piece into the Monsters experience.
I guess so.
Maybe you're not. Maybe you're perfect, and I would 100% believe it if you claimed that. I'm not, though. I have like almost 20 years of One Piece bias that's going into watching something like Monsters.
I would put it maybe this way, like, I'm happy that it got made and I'm happy like that we got to experience it in animated form, but it could have been maybe a little bit more, or it had the potential to be maybe a bit more.
What it makes me keen for is, whilst I was watching it, I didn't have a lot of excitement because I knew it was a one-shot, I knew this was just one and done, but I started thinking to myself, if there was like a Ryuma anime, that would be really fun. To just watch a story taking place in like the world of One Piece. When was he alive? Like 400 or 500 years ago, or whenever it was.
Yeah, I don't think it's fully confirmed. but around that period, yes.
Somewhere around there. I'm
Yeah.
not sure when Ryuma died. I could probably look it up and find out. But that is something that I would be very keen for if when One Piece ends, we like go back and do an anime prequel just set sometime in so far into the past that we don't risk messing anything up. But also far enough from the Void Century, so like smack bang in that period.
But the thing is I think it could still cause a few questions or like issues and speculations as to, you know, why did Duma leave Wano? Like, what was the policy? What was Wano's closed borders policies back then for him to have left Wano? Like, what were the repercussions and stuff?
Which is why after One Piece ends, because we would know answers.
Oh,
to
right.
all
Sorry, I
these
didn't
things.
catch that. Yep,
Yeah.
after One Piece ends. Yep. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
During would be difficult. But it did make me think, I would love to follow just more people in this world. This is the only One Piece project we've ever seen that doesn't have Luffy as the main character. And I was kind of on board with it. Just show me more random people who existed in history.
I 100% agree, and I feel like that's kind of the biggest takeaway I had from watching it, where I was like, I really hope, even if there's like a break, and even if it's not super exciting, kind of like how Boruto started out after Naruto, I was like, if we just get like something chill at a different point in time in the series, whether it be after Luffy or before Luffy or Void Century or somewhere in the middle, anywhere, like actually just getting like a nice, like a different perspective with a different hero somewhere in between there, that would be absolutely fun, and I would like have such a good time. What, like, yes, is it mostly built on nostalgia and like loving one? Yes, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't work, right? So
Yeah. I mean, it's such an expansive world that it feels
Yeah.
like it almost has to be done, because even after we answer all the questions in One Piece,
yeah.
like all the
There's-
mysteries, there's going to be so many like still
left.
yeah. Not
And to be
necessarily
fair,
like
we
unresolved
kind of-
mysteries, but yeah, questions.
Yeah, but there's still going to be questions and places we
yeah,
haven't
for sure.
seen.
Or places that we have seen just hundreds of years ago and what was happening then.
Yeah.
Like seeing Water 7 before it was sinking or something like that.
Looking at the world through like Luffy's glasses and kind of following his perspective, well, I think it would be very interesting to like follow like someone else who isn't Luffy engaging with the world, right? Because I mean, the part of what makes Luffy the big hero of the show is like that he brings that insane change to every island that he goes to. But if you had like a different hero who maybe has like a different approach, like that would obviously not be the way, you know, that he could interact with that, you know, with anything going on, even if he wanted to usually. So I thought that would be pretty interesting.
The thing that I found most interesting was seeing, I guess it could be me just making connections, but seeing sort of like the early ideas for other characters in
Yes.
Monsters.
You mean
So
Mihawk's
seeing-
ancestor?
Yeah, Mihawk's ancestor,
Cyrano.
and maybe even like the
Mihawk's douche ancestor.
cross guild, because you've got like a
Shanks
jester like yeah.
Oh yeah, DR. Yeah, it was just missing a crocodile-like character who I guess is the dragon maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh god.
Ancient cross guild. Monsters is not the only big news. In fact, Monsters wasn't really news. It's good. Check it out. It's a good 25 minutes. But
Yeah.
we have some genuine big news in the One Piece Western-speaking fan base.
Kizaru is joining
Not
the
just
Straw Hats?
Western fan base.
Not just Western, but mostly Western, because those are the panels that I saw on the news. 2 leakers have been arrested in good old Japan who were providing early copies of Weekly Shonen Jump, or access to early copies, to certain individuals who would leak those things on the internet. It's big stuff.
Huge, even, because I think this is something that we have discussed at multiple points and at sometimes on the podcast as well.
I think we
The
have,
spoiler
yeah.
culture for One Piece had become like a phenomenon on its own.
And I will say, not only One Piece, but recently also Jujutsu Kaisen has like
Jujutsu Kaisen.
insane spoiler culture. Arguably, I mean, we're all not as involved in it, obviously, as with One Piece, but arguably even more insane, I would say, from what I've been seeing.
To derail this discussion a bit, is that because of the official English translation? Because Jujutsu Kaisen fans seem to hate the official English translator of that.
I sadly, I'm not like in that community.
I'm not
deep
involved enough to know, but
yeah,
I,
me
I sort of
neither.
hear it tangentially enough.
I'm generally not aware if there, and I'm just assuming there are people who actually cover just the spoilers for One Piece, not even scans, but spoilers. But I do know for Jujutsu Kaisen, there are huge channels that just like make entire videos before even any panels are released. Which I think at least seems bigger than for One Piece.
Yeah, there are some One Piece channels that do that, not many though.
Or at least I've seen channels whose bulk of their videos center around spoilers, and they might make other videos, but those videos really don't perform anywhere near as well. Like the whole value of that channel surrounds
Is that they're early?
spoiler material. Yeah.
There are channels that almost make 7 videos a week. They make a video when the tech spoilers drop. They make a video when the summary drops. They make a video when the leak drops. They make a video when the first scan drops, the second scan. Actually, they don't make a video with the official translation, so it's more like 6 videos a week.
Sounds very stressful. That's like more
Yeah,
than
like-
Julian.
It really does. You need to be on every day. Like, it sounds insane.
Yeah, it's definitely a really big thing. Like I've seen it here on the like in the Japanese news as well.
I've seen the Japanese news as well. I've seen some very
Was it on Twitter?
familiar pages. Yeah, no, the I think it was on NHK, I believe.
I don't remember. It was like in the morning news here somewhere.
I saw a video of a news broadcast, and you know how the Kumamoto police have that fantastic evidence collage of all of the stuff that they've gathered? A lot of those panels was that one double-page spread where York was revealed as the traitor.
Oh.
And I thought that was
spoil.
hilarious because, yeah, what a massive spoiler if you're watching One Piece anime only in Japan. You turn on the news, and it's just like, oh York,
well.
traitor, right in front of you in a story
Oh,
about
no.
piracy. I think that's pretty funny and goes to show just how much Japan does not give a fuck about spoilers. They give a fuck about leaks, but like if you're an anime only watcher, you're expected to know what's happening before you see what's happening.
Well, I guess that's actually a good question. From your experience, Manu, I don't know how much experience of this you have, but do people in Japan who might be only anime only watchers care about being spoiled? Is that a big deal to them?
I honestly don't really know. I do know that there is quite a big like scan and spoiler scene here in Japan though. Like it's not an international
risky.
thing only. Yeah.
That's very risky. I would be terrified to do something like that.
I mean, I guess, even the people who leaked for the international sites, they were still in Japan though, clearly. So
Well, it seemed like it might have been part of like their business model is how I would imagine it. Is like they need to be in Japan to get those early copies.
Yeah, because I from what I imagine, or from what I've been reading, and hearing, a lot of it is very changing hands. Like, you do need to physically be there to buy the magazine or to see the magazine. And then they get scanned and sent.
this was how it was explained to me like way back before I even made YouTube videos. So, and this, we're talking like 6-7 years ago. Like I think the way it was explained is that people like went to the stores where basically they got the magazines delivered earlier or something, and then you like build a relationship with the store and then hope they give you like early access to the entire magazine, basically the Shonen Jump magazine. But then there was also, I'm not really sure, because then there's the entire thing where there was like the leak, like someone within, wasn't that also a thing? There was someone within Shonen Jump who was leaking digital
think
stuff.
I remember that
That's-
for a period. Someone within Shueisha was leaking material.
Did that ever stop?
That was around Gear 5th, I believe.
Yeah, so I don't really know actually what type of leaks we're actually talking about in the first place.
This conversation does get a bit complicated because from what I've been hearing from sources who shall remain publicly unnamed, what happened here is like, we all know that, maybe we don't all know, this is such a weird niche culture that we're all involved in, but One Piece officially comes out on Mondays, Japan time. For it to come out on Mondays, magazines are sent to stores by like Thursday, Friday, and that's where the typical scans come from. In this particular case, what I've been hearing is that the scan groups and the leakers were able to source the material so early because there's a tiny fraction of very trusted business partners with Shueisha that get even earlier access to Jump. And that's where these were coming from. And that's why they were able to narrow and track them down.
Why would they get earlier magazines though if they can't sell them earlier? I wonder.
That was not explained to me.
Yeah, I did not know that there was that added layer of like a special group that were getting this access. But it makes much more sense then on how they would be able to sort of track down where this leak was coming from.
Yeah, because you're not looking at every convenience store in Japan. There
No,
is
it's a
so
special
few.
group. Yeah,
What
yeah,
they were
yeah.
doing was so risky, and it did not pay off.
I think because all the news reports I read always referred to like a wholesale service. So the way that I imagined it was that maybe so
it's like a
Shueisha might have a
distributor?
deal. Yeah, it has a deal with a wholesaler, and those wholesalers then sell to the retail convenience stores or whatever. And so maybe it's like a select number of wholesalers, and that could be sort of this trusted
We'll get the early
network.
access.
Yep, that gets the super early
That would make
access.
more sense, because otherwise, why would you Like, what's the point in sending like certain stores
right.
the magazine earlier? I feel like that makes a lot more sense. If there's like a distributing or like a printer or something, like maybe they don't print it in one place.
Well, I mean, I imagine that Shueisha doesn't have their own distribution network, so the middleman would be pretty essential for this sort of nationwide operation.
I have a question, not necessarily about this arrest, but about the spoiler culture in general. You guys know that I don't read spoilers, so I've always never really understood how it works in terms of the text-based spoilers. So who is then? Is it, again, the middleman that instead of sending out the scans, just explaining what's happening?
This is where we add another layer of complications, because the people who provide the text spoilers are not the same people we're talking about who were arrested or being provided the material by the people who were being arrested. These are separate groups. Text spoilers, the image leakers, Scanlation groups. These are 3 separate entities that don't necessarily have any crossover with each other.
So then who would the text-based spoiler people, where are they getting their information from?
Well, you see, that's still currently a mystery. They are either one of those trusted business partners, or they're industry insiders, which has been known to happen before.
Which was kind of like the guy in Suisha who...
Yeah, okay. The scanlators, they're part of that same network, right? Because the distributors would send it to someone and then that's how the scanlators receive it?
The scanlators receive, like the major scan group receives their one from the general distribution, not the previous trusted one. So they get to like all the convenience stores and stuff, and it's from those stores that they're getting their material from.
So that's why it's slightly delayed, because there's a bit of a time delay. Okay.
The earlier scan group, who was producing full chapters just miraculously out of nowhere, they went up the supply chain and were able to source from there.
Interesting. That makes sense.
It's all very complicated.
Again, like for the tech spoilers, that was always something I found very odd in general, because like it would make sense if you have visual material and then based on that you create text spoilers, but at the same time, then if you have those, like what's the point of having that middle
Coming
step
out with just
in the first
text,
place?
right?
So
Yeah.
So if you say there, it might be like an insider who has heard, like it almost sounds like the people who get who have the text spoilers get like the info from someone else.
Maybe the people who get the text spoilers, and I feel like we all know who we're talking about here, they usually make it sound, well, Sophie probably doesn't, they usually make it sound like they've definitely seen the chapter, because sometimes they describe parts of it quite accurately. Like, I don't think this is a case of whispers. I think they are a case of someone who has seen the chapter but doesn't want to take the risk of distributing it. And fair enough after, you know, what we've seen happen here.
There was a lot more layers to that than I really
There's so
ever
many
understood.
layers, Sophie.
Yeah.
And even this is just a basic examination, because we don't know. So much of this process is kept in the shadows.
I mean, obviously there is going to be quite a lot of money involved in this for sure as well, because otherwise what's the point in taking that risk?
Because of my legal background, the fact that you would get arrested for this, I think one could just say something a little bit more about the Japanese legal system and how seriously they consider copyright and IP infringement.
Very.
Yeah, which I guess is fair enough. But also the idea that you would get arrested for something like this, I think does speak to the scale of the issue. And copyright infringement is a crime. It is in Australia, and I imagine in most countries. But to be actually arrested for something, not just charged, but actually arrested, I think that says a lot.
Well, to speak to the scale of things, I do sort of mini censuses on my channel quite regularly because I love data and statistics. And currently, I know that approximately 90% of my audience reads scanlations and 40% read spoilers. And I have an average viewership of around 1.5 to 2 million viewers a month, unique viewers. So if you calculate what 90 and 40% of that is, that's a lot just coming from my source alone, because I in no way speak for the fan base as a whole. It is colossal, and you think that when you've got one or two different scan groups, where are all of those eyes funneling? And then there's a little ad next to all the pages. You start to calculate that revenue. There's a lot of money in this.
A lot of eyes on that, yeah. I mean, you can just look at like the amount of likes and upvotes that you see on like Twitter threads or like Reddit or whatever, where these are being discussed.
I like my method better.
Polling the channel. Clearly, I mean, yeah, people don't do it for the love of, you know, sharing news early. It's a business model, obviously, in the end for those scan sites.
It is, because it wouldn't be worth it otherwise.
No, not with the risk.
Because the chapter becomes redundant so quickly because the official translation pops out 3 days later. But in that 3 days, like, you know how YouTube works. You make most of your money in the first 24 hours. It's the same for this.
I mean, I've never run a website, but I'd assume that that's true, yeah.
But if you assume that all of the traffic is funneling in, that's
on the same time,
rate,
that makes sense, I guess. Yeah.
Like the first 24 hours is going to be like, ooh, new One Piece, hot off the One Piece oven. Go, click, see an ad.
Yeah, and I mean, we've obviously complained about it often enough that it kind of creates this culture where, yeah, everyone talks about it because it's already out. You kind of feel like you have to talk about it because it's already out.
You do. You can't wait, or you can now. You probably can now, but you couldn't wait for the official to come out because less than 24 hours after that, spoilers for the next chapter are out. And as I've just said, 40% of my audience read those spoilers.
It's not even 24 hours sometimes. I feel like sometimes the spoilers drop even earlier, yeah.
There was one rare occasion I can remember where spoilers for the next chapter came out before the official release of the last one. That was insane.
That's actually, yeah, that's insane. And it also kind of leads to this like pollution of the quality also. And I mean, to be fair, like I'm always, you know, like when people say like, oh, the official translation and stuff is, and there are annoying things in it, and I will to this day refuse to call the Beast Pirates the Animal Kingdom Pirates.
I will never call them the Animal Kingdom Pirates.
Hey, Zolo!
Hey, Zolo!
I'm more on board
Zolo.
with Zolo than the Animal Kingdom Pirates.
The Animal Kingdom Pirates were like so weird.
It makes it sound like Noah's Ark.
By the way, that's also not what it says in anyways, it's like Kaido of the one. I think it's Kaido of the 100 Beasts in Japanese, if I remember.
Kaido?
Yeah, if I remember correctly. So I don't know where the Animal Kingdom Pirates came from. It sounds like a zookeeper.
It's so much snappier. It gets to the point, whereas Animal Kingdom does give me that like Zootopia Madagascar kind of vibe.
Yeah, like a zoo. But yeah, going back to the point, like I think those are legit like complaints that you can have, but in the end, you know, like first of all, it starts off with the entire like just GIFs and little like reaction things.
Oh my god, we haven't even spoken about that yet. So there's another layer before the text spoilers come out, which are the hints, which are just
Is that still a thing?
GIFs. Yeah, maybe it won't be now, but it absolutely was last week before these arrests were announced.
Wow.
There is always a hint from the people who provide the text spoilers, and it's always, you know, a GIF that refers to the chapter somehow, maybe, like incredibly loosely, and it sends people going wild. It's like looking at ink blots. People sort of see what they want to see, and then they go off on wild tangents going mid-chapter. Absolutely terrible. Because if the GIF isn't someone like doing the mind-blowing, you know, motion,
yeah, it's
then
not good
people
enough.
are just like, who cares? Mid, do better, Oda. Just all based on a GIF. That is the culture that has evolved.
We gotta love Twitter. That's why I don't spend any time there anymore these days. I mean, but yeah, again, that process kind of, you kind of chop up the audience into, you know, as Liam said, there's people who just basically don't even like wait for like anything, just based on the GIF decide whether to even engage with anything else. Then you have the text spoilers, and there, as I think we talked about this before, there's people who don't even go any further. They just read the text spoilers, and that's how they consume One Piece. Then there was obviously the first scan, like what is this? There's raws in between.
Well,
first
the leaks
scans
come out first, yeah. So there's image leaks, then full raws.
Yeah.
Then there was quick scan group, then there was regular scan group. Then there's the official, which comes out after 2 or 3 rounds of spoilers and 2 rounds of scanlations. And by the time, no one cares by the time the official comes out, essentially. Because we've overdosed on information.
Everyone's consuming different One Piece at this point also.
So many different translations, yeah.
Do you guys remember when that dragon thing happened? When I think it was the early scan group who said Dragon was talking about the instinct fragment that they had in quotation marks.
I do not remember that.
Okay, I remember this very well because I had a lot of people in my comments when I posted my review going, bruh, why didn't you talk about the instinct fragment? How did you miss this? You forgot to talk about it. Well, that's because in the actual dialogue from the second scan group and the official translation, all Dragon says is, Where do you think Kuma's instincts would take him? There is no bullshit about the fragment.
I don't remember that. I only really read.
You're not a part of
official
that, like,
scanlation.
really, early
Yeah.
cult. The official scanlation. Is that what we're calling
Yeah,
it
the
now?
official. But I do remember, was it when Mjosgard died? And I remember that went through a similar problem where it was very unclear, like, was he dead?
Is he dead?
Like,
Is he not dead? Yeah.
It took clarification from the official for that one. Everyone conveniently forgets whenever the scans kind of mess things up, but they're very quick to jump on the official when a mistake is made, like mother frame or something like that. Yeah.
The mother frame is that's a good one.
Which was a stupid one, but like the official does this every now and then. The scans have very common mistakes that just people don't care about. People forget and forgive.
I think it's because, you know, at the end of the day, you're reading it earlier and you're reading it for free. So I think you are going to be more forgiving and you are going to say, that's the trade-off that I'm willing to make.
The earlier you jump on that wagon, the more quality automatically you're going to sacrifice when it comes to dialogue, when it comes to completeness, when it comes to visuals, you know, like name it.
I guess the question is, how long do you think this is going to last?
I feel like early One Piece is gone for a while. When I say early One Piece, I mean Wednesday One Piece. Like, the scans are still going to be out. It's probably going to go back to how it was a couple of years ago with, like, Friday releases.
Friday releases, yeah.
Friday evening for our time or so. Maybe even Saturday morning.
Obviously, Zuisha shouldn't be in a position from their end where they should have to do anything about their release schedule, but obviously it is a reality that this is happening. And so, I mean, I think something that has been thrown out quite a lot is the obvious solution to this would just be to have the digital release happen a week before the paper release, which, yes, arguably, obviously from their perspective, and I don't know obviously what Shonen Jump's paper versus digital revenue actually looks like.
I do. I can tell you the units sold because I had to look this up for a video that's coming out today. On a weekly basis, sorry, this is data from 2022, so I couldn't find anything more recent than this. It is 1.3 million physical copies on a weekly basis versus 700,000 digital copies.
Interesting. That's in Japan.
So it's not insignificant?
Not at all. And the physical copies are gradually going down, but not particularly quickly over the years, yeah. And digital is going up, but also nowhere near at the point where you can just cut the physical arm off. Like, physical is still very much king in Japanese society.
But the thing is, the way that it works is, because they'd have to do it for all, I guess you'd have to do it for all series. You can't just do it for One Piece. So yeah, okay, you'd cut out the,
Well,
like
yeah.
the...
It would have to be,
You'd
you
cut
just
out the...
cut Jump
Yeah, you just have to
entirely.
cut out Jump. But I would imagine what they would then do is probably raise the price for like a digital Shueisha membership so that they could still make some of that money.
But you could make a model where you either pay like basically the price for a paper, or maybe like slightly reduced for like everything that comes out in Shonen Jump, or you could make a model where you just, you know, subscribe to like one specific,
which is the Viz model.
yeah, where you just subscribe to like a specific show, right?
Yeah. And then you'd probably also have to increase the price of volumes for when they're released.
Then no, at the same time, like if anyone like is actually leaking from inside any of the, you know, the actual production team, and so, like, it might not even matter.
It would make leaks a lot more difficult because there would be almost no incentive to do a whole translation on your own. The leaks that would then happen is the official translation being distributed outside of, you know, the particular apps.
The paywalls, yeah.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. So the official chapter releases at the same time in all countries anyways, I suppose.
Midnight Japan time.
Yeah.
I think it's actually 1 a.m. Japan time.
Yeah, I think it's like 2 or 3 a.m. in Australia usually.
Depending on daylight
But
savings.
then you would imagine, obviously, that it's finished a lot earlier than that, and then they give everyone longer to translate it so that it can go all out at the same time internationally. So then what might happen is there could still be leakers leaking it so that while they're waiting for it to get translated for the official release, people get it earlier, which would then could result in like a really weird scenario where everywhere else in the world we get the chapters earlier than Japan.
Interesting.
I mean, this is all like,
Interesting
you know,
hypothesis.
yeah,
That
like a
would be
hypothetical,
Such
but-
incredibly risky behavior, though.
Yeah.
But then also
So
you barely
incredibly
have any
risky.
time for that also.
It depends on how long they give teams to translate.
So they give them at least a week for translation translations, because I know that Stephen Paul on the One Piece podcast, I don't know if he still does this, but he used to give hints for the next chapter that he'd already translated in the podcast episode that they were talking about the recent chapter, which used to go out on the day it came out. So they have them at least a week in advance.
Yeah, so in that case, then, you know, like, if someone like Stephen Paul, not saying that he is, was the one leaking it, you know, you could potentially have leaks a week in advance.
Yeah, and you would be risking so much, because that is your job. That is like proper legal action that can be taken against you if you don't live in a country like, say, the Philippines.
We'll see. Very curious how it's going to develop going forward.
Me too.
I wonder how it's going to affect our channels going forward.
I don't think it'll affect us much at all. Our schedule's just going to be bumped, and we'll fill what was previously chapter reviews with the content that the chapter reviews are now filling in the time slot. It's just moving things to the right a bit.
It's going to be
It's very beneficial for people like Manu and I, because now we're not competing against the early spoiler people as much, or the early scan people as much. It's like bringing them closer to us, which is not good for them because it removes the first mover's advantage a little bit.
I mean, it does make switching to the official also a lot more viable again.
It does.
Which I'll probably do.
Depending on how the other scan group... I think you should. You live in Japan. It's But it does potentially. The reason why the official wasn't viable was because spoilers came out so quickly after its release. I used to follow the official as well.
I know you did. Yeah, for quite a long time, actually, yeah.
Sophie, do we have any new official members?
We do. Actually, we don't have any official new members. So this is, official old
Legacy
members.
members.
Legacy,
And also a plea
vintage.
to anyone who's watching who might want to start becoming a member. Please do.
And get your name.
Sophie will say your name.
Yeah. I'll even
sexually.
say it the way you want. So everyone say thank you to Meilu. Was that? I don't know. If that was
Thank you.
sexual enough. Should I try to make it
Meilu want you
huskier?
to say that seductively?
Meilu was like,
That's
no,
true.
I did not. I
All
did
right. Thank you,
not
Meilu.
want them to
Should
say
I
it that
it
way.
with an Australian accent?
Thank you so much,
Meilu.
Meilu. We appreciate
Thank
what
you,
you've
Meilu. We
given
do
us.
appreciate you a lot. Much, much appreciated.
I'll say it 10 times in like 10 different ways. Meilu.
Yeah.
You can say angrily.
My Lou! May Lou! How dare you
Clean
Now
your
with
become a
a thick
member of
Australian
us?
accent.
Hi, Meilu.
Oh, thank you so much, May Lou.
Oh, we were talking about
I really
Akainu
appreciate it.
earlier, right? Because Sophie's,
Akainu.
I really appreciate
Sophie's
the
a bit
membership.
scared of seeing Akainu.
Well, Sophie has a thick accent. Oh, I'm going
Yes.
a bit Kiwi there, aren't I?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, when Akainu went to Marineford, he were like punching a hole through Ace. Ace.
Heard.
Hole. How do you say hole in Australian? It's just a hole.
Hole.
How? A hole. All right,
A
gotcha.
hole in my bucket.
Oh no.
All right.
I got a hole in my
Alright,
ace.
this has devolved into madness. Just quickly, next week we'll be talking about Bleach. Look forward to it. We'll see you
Catch
then.
up.
Oh no,
Bye.
next week we're doing Bleach, aren't we?
Yeah, we're doing Bleach.
Okay. Good that we cleared that up.
Great. Like
Not
your
that
hair.
bleach, the other bleach. Very true.
I should have waited one more week.